Happy Halloween! Hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Make sure you stay safe if you go out trick-or-treating. If you go out to a party, make sure you just buddy system. Please stay safe today. There's going to be 2 that are real and 1 that is fake. And it is up to you to decide which one actually happened and which one didn't. So let's get right into it. So let me start off this story with saying that I'm very in tuned when it comes to spiritual energy. I can instantly feel when something's not right, when there's something in a room. And I know you can kind of categorize it as well as being paranoid, but I'd like to think I'm not that paranoid to where my body is instantly sensitive to this kind of stuff. So let's take it back a couple of years. I would say maybe 6 years ago, I think about 6 or 5 years ago. So I know the difference between sleep paralysis and a dream. I dream every single night. I have a very vivid imagination. And while there are some people who only sleep maybe once in a while, I have a dream every single night. So I very much know the difference between the two of them. And I also know the difference between a dream and being awake, obviously. So this one time I had just finished having my dream and I was in the process of waking up. You know how that usually goes. You open your eyes, you look around, your mind slowly starts to whirl awake. This time didn't feel the same. I felt someone there. I wasn't sure what it was, but I just kept on trying to wake up. And then out of nowhere, a dark black figure stood over me and yelled in my face, "Wake up!" I instantly sprung up. I wasn't sure what that was, what I had just seen, but it didn't feel right. Now, I've had nightmares before. I mean, it's a very regular occurrence that I have considering I dream every single day. This didn't feel like a nightmare. I remembered speaking to my best friend at the time. I was on the phone with him and I just kept on telling him how just something doesn't feel right. And I decided to go to my mom. Now, keep in mind, I'm Catholic. I was baptized. So my family used to be really religious. We aren't anymore, but it's still very dear to us, especially my mom. So after all day of this not leaving my head, I got really just tired of it. And I went to my mom and I asked her if she could pray for me, if she could just do basically any Mexican remedy to take away bad energy. So she came up to me, she did the little cross on my forehead, and she prayed for me. She asked me what had got me so riled up. I never go to her for these type of things. I just kind of never talk about them. So I sat down and I told her what happened. And when I told her the story, she freaked out. She asked me to go to my room. She was genuinely really scared. I went into my room and about 5 minutes later, my brother and my mom both entered my room and my brother sat down next to me on my bed. My mom, completely terrified, said to me, "The thing that I saw over my body that morning was the same thing my brother had been seeing for over a year now. Apparently, when he was at home, he would see shadows or he would see someone almost following him, but when he would turn around and look, no one was there." Now, my brother was in the band and he played the tuba. The tuba is a big instrument. He would claim that whenever he was practicing his tuba, he could see a figure reflecting off of the tuba, someone behind him at all times. During this time, my brother was wearing cross necklaces, and my brother isn't a very religious person. Me and him have had conversations about it and how he's not necessarily atheist, but he wouldn't classify himself as a Catholic. So for me to see my brother wearing crosses, I just assumed, maybe he thought it was fashionable and left it at that. But no, there was actually a deeper meaning behind it. My brother was genuinely scared. So after we discussed everything that happened, my mom decided it would be a good idea to call the priest. So she called the priest, and while she was on the phone with him, not entirely sure how this works, okay? But while she was on the phone with him, they walked around the house and the priest blessed the house. As far as I know, that was the last we heard of anything. However, a couple of months to maybe a year later, I had an aunt visit from Mexico. The second day that she was here, we were all sitting down having either breakfast or dinner. I can't really remember. But she said that she felt something weird in our guest room. Our guest room, which is across from my room, is the coldest room in the house. Which is really weird considering my brother's room, which is about the same size as the guest room and also on the same floor, gets really hot. My room as well, which is why we tend to turn down the AC, but for some reason, that room is always cold. She ended up telling us something that she basically kind of what happened to me. She wasn't sure if it was a dream or not, but she felt like it actually happened. She was laying down in bed. She woke up in the middle of the night. She looked up. When she looked up, she saw someone leaning over her, but from the wall. Like a body appeared halfway through the wall and just stared at her, and then immediately went back. At this point in time, my mom had also confessed that when she was home alone, which did happen a decent bit, she would hear someone moving upstairs. Upstairs, only me and my brother reside. My parents stay downstairs with my grandma. So if no one is home, who's moving up around here? So this was way back. Way back when I was a wee little lass. I was maybe 4, 5, or 6 years old, around that range. I can't really specify it. I just remember the house we lived in. My grandmother had given us a porcelain doll. Now, she was absolutely gorgeous, but I wasn't the biggest fan of her. I just had the weirdest feeling around her. And so she stayed in my sister's room. Now, my sister had a really tall wardrobe, and the doll would stay on top of the wardrobe. One day, we were in her room, and we were browsing through the internet. I mean, it was just, she had a computer in her room. The internet was becoming insane. All of these new things were coming out. We were just browsing through it, and the doll that stayed on top of the wardrobe fell off. We're not sure how. The wardrobe wasn't shaken. The doll wasn't even on the edge of the wardrobe. The doll was also placed on a placer, like her back was held up. So we're not sure how the doll was scooted over and then fell behind the wardrobe and my sister's bed. Needless to say, we didn't go grab it. We actually went to my mom and we told her what happened. My mom went and grabbed it. She put it back up there. Me and my sister just both weren't happy with it. Luckily for me, the doll wasn't in my room, so I wasn't really that scared, but it was in my sister's and she just wasn't having it. If I remember correctly, my mom actually ended up moving the doll out of her room. Anyways, we still kept the doll since it was a gift from my grandma, and it just ended up staying in a different part of the house. About maybe a week later, I remembered getting out of bed and I walked down the hall. The way our house was shaped at the time was my sister's room and my room were connected by a hallway. That hallway went out this way and then out this way. It was an L shape. So basically we had an L-shaped hallway. At one end was me and my sister's room. The other end of the L-shaped hallway led to the living room. I remembered walking out and peeking out through the L, and I just didn't feel right. Everything inside of me was screaming, run, go back, go under your sheets, go back to sleep. I could hear something moving in the kitchen. I listened to whatever I felt and ran back to my room, but I kept the door open. We always left a light on in the bathroom that was in the hallway because me and my sister, we were both very young and we just didn't like sleeping with our doors closed. However, that night, I was the only one with the door open. My sister left her door closed. I remembered crawling into bed and putting the covers over my head. But I decided I wanted to peek out. I wanted to see. So I slowly lifted the covers up just enough to where only one eye could see out. And I could instantly just shut myself back into the safety of my covers if I saw anything I didn't like. I saw something I didn't like. As I was staring out, because of the light of the bathroom, if someone was to walk down the hallway, I could see shadows of the person that was walking. I saw a shadow, and it wasn't the height of anyone in the house. Now, my brother was already born this time, and yes, he could walk. But my brother was asleep in my parents' room, and my parents closed their door at night. I remembered seeing a shadow very slowly walk towards our side of the house. It was very small steps, just a little step here, a couple of seconds, a little step there, almost as if it was trying to catch itself. I saw that, and I instantly hid back under the covers. And you know what you do as a little kid when you're scared to get caught? You just kind of force yourself to sleep any way you can. You instantly shut your eyes and just sleep, 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 sleep. I fell asleep. I never figured out what it was, and I'm glad I didn't, because I feel like I would have absolutely regretted ever seeing what that was walking in my house. So this isn't a story that happened to me, but it's a story that happened to my sister and my brother-in-law. This was about 4 years back, maybe 3. I'm gonna say about 4. Now, my sister and my brother-in-law don't really believe in ghosts or spirits. That's just not something that they ever did. They just don't really think they're around, and, there's nothing wrong with that. However, I feel like they definitely do believe in those type of things now. They had recently moved into their new home. They're very excited. I mean, they have a little girl, and there's so much room for her to play in now. They completely upgraded from the 1-bedroom house they had to a 3-bedroom house. It was definitely very exciting, and they had a beautiful backyard and a beautiful front yard. They ended up going through with sage and just cleansing the house. I think it was my brother-in-law's mom that did it. However, I don't think what was in there liked that. One day, my sister came over, and she was crying. Of course, me and my mom were worried sick. Why are you crying? What's wrong? Well, she tells us everything that happened. Basically, again, my niece was maybe 2-3 years old during this time, and they left a baby monitor in her room. I mean, this was the first time basically that she would be sleeping on her own. I mean, they lived in a 1-bedroom apartment before. She slept with them, but now she had her own room, she had her own bed, and she needed to learn to sleep in her own space. But my sister wasn't quite 100% sure on that, so she left a baby monitor in her room to hear if anything happened. Well, she heard things. Late at night, when my niece was supposed to be asleep, my sister would hear shuffling, someone moving in the room. She would go check. My niece was fast asleep. No one was around. There were other times where my sister would hear my niece talking to someone, having a full conversation with someone. She would go into the room. No one was there, and she was asleep. Of course, at first, they chalked it up to sleep talking. That's possible. It happens. So my sister would wait. Nothing. It was the weirdest thing. It was almost as if the talking would continue until my sister would check, and then the talking would cease and not return until the next night. It really began to scare my sister. My brother-in-law then talked to us, and he was just as scared. Now, my brother-in-law is a really strong individual. he's someone you look at and you think, wow, I really do not want to get into a fight with him. And he's also like that very emotionally. He's very secure. It's very hard to terrify him. It broke my heart to see him so hurt. It broke my heart to see him feel like he couldn't do anything to protect his family. He felt defeated. How do you protect your family from something you can't see? He told us how one day he stepped out of the bathroom. This bathroom is at the end of the hallway that they have in their house. And at the end of the hallway is my sister and his room, and then my niece's room. When he stepped out of the bathroom, out of the corner of his eye, he said he saw a little girl standing in his room. But when he looked and purely faced there, they were gone. There was nothing in the way that could have formed it. There was nothing there that could have somehow made his brain think that's what it was. It really began to become a huge issue. They didn't know what to do. My mom had an old Bible that she kept around, and she also had a cross statue. She gave both of them to my sister, and my sister ended up putting the cross statue above my niece's bed. The Bible, I think she kept open in her room. I think what happened next was they actually ended up getting the priest that we called to come over to their house and cleanse it. Nothing has happened since then. My sister gave birth to my beautiful nephew, and no situations have occurred that occurred with my niece. So I think that whatever was disturbed is finally at peace, or just left. And those were the horror stories for Halloween. So again, 2 of them were fake, 1 was real. Can you guess which one? I'll tell you. The fake one was actually the doll one. It's actually half fake though. The doll was actually in my sister's room. The doll was held up, just held up by a sturdy doll holding thing. The doll was not on the edge of the wardrobe. That doll actually did fall on its own. My mom never picked it up. I think we left it there for a long time. And when my grandma came to visit us, she actually took it back to her place. We didn't want to touch it. It scared us. We don't understand how that doll fell. I mean, I live in a place where there are no earthquakes. We were on a 1-story house. Me and my sister were in her room. We don't know what happened. So, that story is half true, and the other ones did actually happen. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I really hope you enjoyed it. Again, it's Halloween. Be safe out there when you go trick-or-treating. Be safe if you go to a Halloween party. And make sure to use the buddy system, guys, alright? I want y'all to be safe. Come back home safely, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye.